there was no question, so, you know,
That's good.
so.
Well, I thought town meeting went well, and the only issue I still have is with the Board of Selectmen, with the finance, the audit firm. They provided information to us, but they haven't provided the final document. And I have a real problem with that, and I've made that known to the Board of Selectmen through a board member and the chair. So I guess we're in a holding pattern for that information. Everything we have is correct, but as I've said time and time again, this board is not the finance director of the town of Harwich. And we have an auditor, did the job. Please supply the conclusion.
She hasn't emailed it to them, and they haven't given it to us, or she hasn't, or
It hasn't been provided, period.
not to anybody in town.
That's,
That's
so
fine.
that's in the,
Right.
that's up to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say that there was a gentleman who stood up and, talking about the budget and additional concerns, you know, wastewater, debt, et cetera, and he mentioned the Community Preservation Act funds, and he, was incorrect in his numbers with CPA. You know, he said that our numbers totaled close to 2.5 this year, and they definitely were not. They were like around 1.6. And I, you know, I thought about getting up and correcting him, but, you know, whatever.
Didn't,
I didn't.
didn't Dave give that number?
I gave the affirmative number, but this is
1.6?
before I spoke.
This is before he spoke. This was on the first night.
Oh, somebody
Yes, somebody was
folding that in with a bunch of
folding it in
other-
with the rest of,
Yeah.
I
of
see.
debt,
Ah,
so to speak, taxes and debt.
Yeah, he added everything up and had one. figure.
Right, right. So I just want to make sure that in the future, we maybe talk to the individual to make sure that they understand what they're reading in the warrant article.
Yeah, if they come and let us know what they're gonna do.
Right.
Anything from the rest of the board? Okay, thank you. Moving on. By the way, as far as the Community Preservation Committee is concerned, thank you very much to all of you for the participation through the year. And again, there are certain things I will ask each individual at some point in time to do, and I haven't been refused in the past, and I hope that continues.
Always the first time.
That's true. That's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. Okay, moving on. CPC project status. Amy, why don't you go ahead and take this?
Sure.
You're up.
I did print out what I had sent.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll give you extras if you want them.
Always do.
You got yours?
Yeah, but you know, I didn't get the back. There's a little thing on the back.
There's like one sentence.
Oh, okay, thanks. I scooched it up.
Thank you.
That's why it's all on one page for us.
You got yours, you gave it to me at the beach.
Good job, okay.
Oh, no, I changed it. Thank you. Thought maybe I'd catch you.
There you go. Yeah, this one too. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Amy Usowski, Conservation Administrator for the town of Harwich. Thank you for accommodating me this month. I couldn't make it last month. So currently, we have 2 articles still with funds in them. One is way back from 2018, and we're all familiar with it. It's the public access to the Hinkley Pond remediation. Unfortunately, I'm still not having additional progress on this. After we last spoke, I've been working with the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation on the right of access that they wanted. The plan has been given to them multiple times over the past few years, and their comments finally back about the plan that we had John O'Reilly of J.M. O'Reilly and Associates develop was that they want the entirety of the old lot to be essentially impervious surface and ADA accessible. if you recall, what we've proposed was that there would be an ADA access path leading from the bike trail to an overlook with a bench, but that the rest of the area was going to be pervious to help with the drainage at the site. So either native pea stone or mulch or whatnot. They've been pretty strongly opinion on this in the last couple months, that they want that to just be entirely, the whole thing to be ADA compliant, essentially meaning impervious. And the plan that we have accounts, like I said, it accounts for pervious, but it also has a drainage, has a stormwater system in it, which would have to be totally re-engineered if the whole thing was to be paved. So I'm bringing that here to you. We have $70,000 in change left out of the 75. We spent 4,000, between 4 and 5 on engineering. At this point in time, we'd have, and the reason they want that is because they feel that stone, mulch, even stone dust could become a hazard in the rail trail and just be a maintenance issue for them. And I mentioned, like, what could we contain it somehow? Could we have edging that would help contain this? And they're not interested in that. So they love the idea, they love that the town would pay, but they're pretty adamant, and it is their land, that top of the area, that it be impervious. So my suggestion, if you want to move forward with this and get the plan re-engineered, I have not gotten a quote, so I estimated a little high. I don't think it would be $5,000 to have John O'Reilly look at the drainage in particular for that, but either request to retain 5,000 of that for that, and really essentially make this a design and permitting aspect to try to get that through, and then in the future, if that is successful, come back for construction funds. This article's so old as well that likely the price, the estimates are not valid likely anymore. Or if you see fit, I would completely understand if you wanted to rescind the entirety of it.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up to the board. Kathy?
Yeah, so were they suggesting an impervious, what do you call it?
The whole top
Whole
is
thing.
either gonna be,
Is that outside of the 100-foot of the pond front? So how does that work, since
Well, the whole-
isn't there like a little thing that you guys got going there, like?
we do. However, the whole area is currently paved, but it's in really poor condition. And I would say to be ADA compliant, it would have to be redone. So I wouldn't foresee an expansion of impervious surface, which would be an issue with conservation, but it still needs to get redone appropriately. And it would need permitting.
Second question is the Harwich Conservation Trust right down the path from
Yeah.
this area is putting an ADA compliant
Correct.
Viewing platform. So I'm just wondering if we feel it necessary to have 2 platforms and 2 ADA compliant ones. Is that gonna be necessary? Maybe, I guess what I'm asking is, are you saying that DCR is not interested in giving us permission if we don't make this completely ADA compliant the way that they want?
I have a very strong feeling that they would not agree unless the
Okay.
entire thing was
So-
ADA compliant.
What can we do without their permission? What part of the project, I guess, I'm asking?
That's a good question. And I would have to look exactly, and I don't have the plan here in front of me, and I should have. I do believe that if we were to want to put a staircase in, that the staircase would be in its entirety on town property. So it would need permitting through the Conservation Commission. We already have that site plan. The topography hasn't changed there. I don't think that part would change. So there is a possibility if you wanted to construct a raised staircase, that could be done without state approval.
Okay. And the rest of the project, I mean, I agree with you, it's been so long, we sort of forget, but it involved, I think, a kiosk of sorts for bikes, it involved some
Pavilion, yep.
picnic tables,
Yep.
it involved some whatever. all that was situated on DCR land, correct?
I believe there's actually a couple picnic tables out there right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
So
that
I-
is all on DCR land,
Yeah.
correct?
So-
Basically, everything on the flat
Yeah.
up top is
I guess-
DCR land.
I guess where I'm leaning is just rescinding the money and starting over.
Mhm.
And kind of, with the fact that HCD now has this potential thing going on down the path, just kind of double, just rethinking what we need there or what we'd
Yep.
like there. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Well, hold on. This is 2018. So no matter what the decision is, maybe a request could be made not to rescind the money, and there would be a vote of this board to continue on if the board wanted to go in that direction. But the 3-year term has passed, long passed. So before anybody gets in a discussion of what the true rescinding is gonna be, I want that out there. So, go ahead, John. Do you understand what I'm
Which I-
driving
I have
at?
no
I'm not
idea
sure,
what you
no.
said.
All right, because
None of us did.
Yeah.
you're gonna, it's past what the board decided that we'd have a 3-year period for projects to get underway and to get done. So, this is from 18.
Right, we extended it every year.
We didn't formally extend it every year. There was no formal vote.
No.
There needs to be now.
Yeah.
So, just
Okay.
keep that in the back.
Okay, all right.
That could be a request from
Okay, I
the
got it.
applicant to us, and we can do that. So if we want to go in a different direction, that's fine too. But I just want that out there. John, you got the floor.
Well, so it seems to me that a big part of the problem has been complete lack of clarity from the state about what they would accept and what they wanted. And I have no sense, I hope you have a better sense about whether they're more clear about that now. Or do we, if we committed to, okay, let's wait another year, if we were to consider that, what are the odds that we would just be going around in circles more with the state, with DCR? And so the other side of that question is, okay, so we rescind all of money right now and agree that conservation will try to make a clear plan, get some commitments out of DCR about what they will really accept, and then come back in here and ask for appropriate funding. I mean, the other part, of course, as you said, all the estimates are out of date, and I don't know whether what that $75,000 was gonna go for 7 years ago, what it's gonna go for now at all. I mean, some things have doubled since then.
Times 3 maybe.
So, every time, I personally feel that every time I come back here and talk to you, I feel horrible that we haven't made progress on this. And I don't want it to come out as it's for lack of effort. But I'm gonna be prepared to ask you to rescind the funds. What should have happened in 2018, similar to what we just got funded for the other night for the boardwalk project, we probably should have approached this, and this was years ago, that it should have been for design and permitting of this work and not construction as well. But at the time, we were all trying to everybody wanted improved access if we were gonna be spending CPC funds for the alum treatment. So we tried to
There was
box
linkage,
it.
you're correct.
We tried to box it all in together, not anticipating it was gonna turn out like this. So had I had a chance to do it again, that's what I would have done, is ask for money for design and permitting and left out construction, from that one article. I don't have a strong feeling because it's taken, I would say, the better part not the whole 7 years, but since I've actually gotten a hold of somebody at the state, it's still taken at least 2 to 3 years. And we're not too much closer, other than now they're saying that they want the whole thing to be ADA compliant, when they've had the plan for, the new commissioners had the plan. So, I don't want to prolong this anymore, and I'd rather try to approach it in the correct manner if the town wants to still see it pursued at this location, given that we're gonna have another public access right down the bike trail. I would like the funds to be available going forward for a project that can actually use them.
Okay, before I come back in, Art,
Well, what confuses me a little bit, number one, I would just say, let's just get a clean sheet of paper and start over again. And knowing what you know now.
Yeah.
And what the facts you know today. But then the thing that, the other caveat is, we got a similar project going on right down the street, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I don't think it makes sense to have two side by side. Maybe we could have one big one, or, I don't know, or, combine your efforts or something,
Yeah.
and just have one that meets everybody's goal. I think that's be the best way to go, but definitely with a clean piece of paper. I mean, it's just, we're just trying to cobble something together that, the wheels fell off a long time ago, and we can't find the wheels anymore, so let's do that.
we're all set. Marcy?
I was gonna say, I mean, you were doing your due diligence and dealing with the state, so you're gonna come through a lot of red tape, and it just sounds like what Kathy had mentioned about not having to go by the state and having a staircase. I mean, I think that would make sense, rather than having to start all over again, because you're going back to the state, and it seems like they change hands, so maybe that someone had that plan 7 years ago.
2 or 3 commissioners.
Right, so that's
of
gonna
DCR
happen and
since.
probably put more delays on it.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
My whole problem with the whole situation is town meeting. When you go
I
back to
understand.
2018 and what we asked for,
I know.
if you have documentation,
Mm-hmm,
that would take us off the hook,
sure,
as it was.
I do.
Okay, then that's, I'll go, whatever the department head decides, the direction you want to go is fine with me, as long as that other information is available.
It is available.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
Yeah, well, two things. One, I don't think we can set aside $5,000 or $6,000 for another site thing,
Survey.
because the whole project could have changed, and,
Yep.
the original, I mean, I think it's important to understand that this was very, very important to the Community Preservation Committee at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Having public access and having some kind of public, the ability for the public to use that spot was very, very important. In particular to me, I mean, I fought for
It's
that.
important in the town meeting, they
It
voted
was
for
important at town meeting, and so I don't
agree.
wanna negate that, but things have changed. And, I think that in light of what's going down the trail with HCT and the Jenkins Bog, project there, the eco restoration that's going on, we don't wanna have a duplication necessary of efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it would be in our best interest to look at that again.
Yep.
But that being said, I also do not want this to turn into the sand pond restroom. which is like the most expensive restroom in history, and, you know, thus, we don't want to have the most expensive public access in history because, you know, it's so many years later and it costs that much more. So I think maybe going back to the drawing board is not a bad idea, unfortunately.
Maybe we do scale it back.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
focus mostly on stairs, but I'm happy to do that with a separate application.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, we made a promise to
Yeah.
folks, so I think we need to follow through with that.
Okay. Does anybody want to float a motion to rescind?
Well, we don't have the exact amount.
75,000?
No,
Well,
it's the
minus,
unused balance.
Okay.
I,
All right, I'll make a motion to
That works.
rescind the unused balance of 2018 Article Number 57, public access of the Hinckley's Pond remediation project.
is there a second?
Second.
Which one am I taking?
Doesn't matter.
Marcy?
Okay, you can take me.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Board members, are ready for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? It's a vote.
next one.
Next one.
Another older one, 2020 Article 31, restoration and rehabilitation of town-owned conservation lands. Since we last spoke, we have spent another $6,000 out of that. There still is $6,428.30 remaining. The cost to relocate the parking lot at the Bell's Neck was done very expeditiously over the wintertime, permitted and installed under budget. My intention is to spend the remainder of those funds this spring. The Conservation Commission had gone back and forth a while ago about putting a gate at the Depot Road entrance, a better gate or electronic gate that has seemed to not really be something that we're interested in at this time. So I was saving several thousands of dollars for that. That was gonna cost a lot. So I'm not saving that anymore. I have already purchased between $2,000 and $3,000 worth of additional nice thick fencing that we can use on the conservation lands purchased with CPC funds. And I also plan on buying a bunch of native plants to restore the old parking lot at, on Bell's Neck Road that, and plant that up, as well as improve other areas within the conservation land. So I'm asking to keep the remainder of that, and there will not be any more left in 6 months when I see you again.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Open it up to the board. John?
I don't have anything to add.
Marcy?
That sounds like a good plan to me. And we'll come back in 6 months and discuss it.
All right.
Well, I'm in favor of it, but the only but is the plan is changing a little bit, right? From what I'm hearing now.
So the article was pretty broad, and it was basically to restore and rehabilitate town-owned conservation land that was purchased with the help of CPC funds.
Okay, so,
Under that, there were several items. So we bought trail cameras. We purchased and installed an awful lot of fencing that is sturdy and it keeps people out of where we don't want. We purchased brand-new signage, and some other smaller items. One of those items was the gate, but it was only one of a several list. It wasn't a committed, it was a way that we could have spent
Okay.
the money.
so you're staying within the parameters of the...
I'm staying within the parameters, yeah.
I'm happy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, this was the one year I wasn't here, when I took my break. So, I didn't really know what this was, but, the town-owned conservation lands, you say, and I know that every time you report to us, it's all in the Bell's Neck area. Were there any other, conservation
Yep.
areas that were able to get a little bit of this money, or is it all focused at Bell's Neck?
Most of it's Bell's Neck. We also did spend money on fencing and signage for the Robbins Pond Conservation Area, pieces of which were purchased with CPC funds.
Great.
And I would like to say, this, even though it's $20,000, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing, it has allowed us to do so much more to benefit these conservation lands than I could ever do with my little budget that I have. So I feel like we did an awful lot with $20,000.
Great.
Or right now, 13,000 and change.
Are you, if I forget, are you trying to close the parking lot off completely?
We built
With
a
the
new
gate?
one. At the depot?
Yeah, depot.
It would be seasonally during herring season at night to help prevent poaching. So there is a gate there. It's always open. It could use a new one at some point. It's still functional. We leave it open, but Division of Marine Fisheries and the town natural resource director in the past and conservation have talked about seasonally closing that at night to help prevent poaching and maybe some activities that shouldn't be going on in that parking lot by the herring run that can't be seen at night.
Because it's,
Because
It's a wild place.
it can
Really
be in a
wild.
bit of
Don't know.
it can be a
Know
bit of
where
an
it is.
attractive nuisance. Because it's just not visible from the road, so it's hard to police unless you get in there. So,
okay.
it's not saying we can't address that going forward, but not under this article at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else from any member of the board? I guess you're all set when it comes to that.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. May I ask one other question? So the funds that were allocated at town meeting, those funds are officially available July 1, correct?
That's correct.
168?
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we'll be preparing the request for proposals,
Great.
like starting next
That's
week,
great.
to get going on that other one, so.
There's going to be a discussion on CPC funding. There has to be a discussion with the Board of Selectmen, with the new finance director, whomever that may be. I don't want to get too in-depth in it, but there were some hiccups last year, and entities that were given monies, approved monies from the CPC by town meeting were held, I can't use that word. I'm trying to avoid that.
Yep.
I'm trying to avoid where the department heads puts in an application, gets approved by town meeting, then when that money comes available, they have the documentation for it, they have access to that money immediately. So just be aware.
Yeah.
That discussion has to take place this year,
Okay,
because those fundings were held off for quite a while, and there was no need of it.
okay.
So, again, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks,
Have a
Amy.
wonderful night.
Thank you, Amy.
Amy, why don't you take the day off tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it will.
Take one out of petty cash. Updated status, okay. Next one, Housing Historic Commission. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to that?
No, there isn't any here, but they did send a report.
Yes, okay. All right, anybody from the Housing Authority?
Wait, do we want to talk about the report?
Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at it now. Give me a second. Okay, I'm good.
Anybody else? Any other board member? No? Moving on, Housing Authority. Any discussion? Hearing none, moving on. Go ahead.
No, I brought up at the last meeting, I said that we probably need to have a discussion at some point about how we're gonna deal with applicants that can't, for some reason, give us an update at any point in time, whether that be written or come to the meeting. And so I think we just need to put something in place that deals with that, like, if in 2 years we haven't been able to get a report or a written report or an oral report, then, is it time for us to rescind the funds? I mean, or do we just not have any teeth in our guidelines, Because we say this stuff in our
Well,
guidelines.
if
but
we're
we
gonna
don't-
do it, we gotta set a policy. It
Right.
has to be a written policy. So,
Right.
let's get into the discussion. What are the thoughts of the boards on that? Art?
Well, you're right. If you don't have a written policy, you don't have a policy.
But we have it written in our guidelines.
It's in our guidelines.
It's in our guidelines.
Guidelines.
I'm not so sure it's not in the application.
It's in the guidelines of the application, okay? So it's there.
It's there.
It talks about reporting, it talks about, presenting, it talks about the timeframe.
But it's on a piece of paper that
It's-
someone.
Yes.
Yes, it is, but it's not in a policy book, and we also don't have any, I don't think there's any follow-up if those standards aren't met.
Well, my take would be, at the point of the entity being able to access the funds, that's a good jumping off point. So everyone's on the same page, and they know exactly what is expected of them from CPC. They got the funds, now they can proceed on their projects or whatever it is, but it comes with, some work on their part by reporting back to.
But they know that.
That is in the application, and it's
But
clear to them that they have to do it.
it should be. Stop signs are at the end of the street. You're supposed to stop the car, but a lot of people don't stop. I rest my case.
There's been a couple
Well,
of,
so the question is what happens next then? So, if a 6-month period comes, we get no written report, we get no oral report. 6 months later, we get no written report, no oral report. At what point do we do anything, if anything?
Well, I mean, I would assume you're generally inviting them to present themselves to the board.
Yes, we have.
And if they just tell, they either forget or they tell you to go someplace, are you putting up with that? So
that's what this discussion is about.
Yeah, so I don't know, how I hate to say, one gonna get heavy-handed, but, it's, they've been allocated the funds and so on and so forth, and they're gonna look at, well, the paperwork is just the paperwork. A lot of people look at it, a lot of people believe in the paperwork, and a lot of people don't believe in paperwork, so, yeah, I can understand that's the problem.
So what are you saying?
I don't know how you really, I mean, you can use the public forum and just say, ABC is not cooperating, but you don't wanna go that way. It doesn't-
Not dealing in good faith?
does-
Not dealing in good faith?
Yeah, it doesn't win any friends and influence people too much.
Okay, Marcy, go ahead. You have the
All
floor.
right, I'll make a suggestion. First of all, yeah, you'll need a policy, because that's what will give you teeth. Is there any way to have like a template, like with this application process, that they have to have a report on this particular form, even if it's something they fill out? So that way we have something as part of that packet, that it's not just saying in the guidelines, you have to report, but there's an actual physical report that they would have to provide within our guidelines. There's the paper to fill out. I don't know how that would be structured, but it would just be something part of that packet, so that, that they would have to fill out, That's just my thought.
That's not a bad idea.
That's,
John?
So, I agree that we should be a little tighter about this and state consequences up front. There's language here in the informational packet, which we're claiming anybody who submits an application agrees to these stipulations. And it does say if the applicant fails to fulfill all obligations under the terms of the agreed application, and the agreed application is terminated, any funds not expended shall be returned forthwith, blah, blah. So that almost addresses what we're talking about, not quite. The question is whether we should think about modifying that language, or if that's really the right place to be doing this, because it's kind of buried in the fine print, and the question is how many of the applicants read in great detail the entire thing. But maybe that doesn't matter, because if we have this problem, we just point to the language that they signed and agreed and say, I'm sorry, we're done.
Okay, here's the caveat to that. Here's the monkey wrench. I've been told by I've made certain requests of certain department heads. I've been told by administration I can't direct those department heads. It's not in my purview. I have a problem with that, and I haven't pushed that issue with legal, but we're a quasi-government organization. We have the ability to set certain guidelines, and we've done that through the application. How much of a fight do we want to get involved with when administration says, the person works for me, not for you? What do we do then? And I understand it's a harsh way of looking at things, but that's the reality. Kathy?
Well, I think one option we have is, of course, if that applicant comes before us again for funding, we have the option to not fund.
You got
I
the
mean,
report card.
based on past performance or something. I mean, we do have that option, okay? I mean, we're talking like one or two applicants that have sort of failed to meet these requirements, basically. You know, I don't know, and there have been personnel changes frequently in both of these areas. I'm not offering that up as an excuse, but I'm just saying, how can we get the information that we need to do our jobs if we can't get them to report to us?
So
John, go ahead, you have the floor.
what authority do you as chair have to block distribution of funds? Like, got a project that's underway, some funds have been expended, but not all of the funds that have been allocated through us in town meeting have been expended. Do you have the authority to tell, I don't know whoever it is in town who actually pays the bills, distributes funds, when an invoice comes in, do you have the authority to to block the distribution of further funds until whatever dispute happens to be present is resolved?
I have the ability as chair of this committee to go to town meeting, give this board's recommendations to town meeting. I have the ability as chair of this committee to sign off on admin funds and their use. That's the extent of my ability, as I understand it. Whether that is right, I'm not an attorney. That would have to be a request made of the legal department. But as far as those other two things are concerned, I know for a fact, because I've had discussions with the attorney over that. So, we have the ability, according to CPA documents from the state, to rescind funds. That's in the documents. You gotta dig deep to find them. We have that ability. But that doesn't mean we have the ability to take a department head of the town of Harwich, whether they signed a contract or not. That's an issue for legal. Because if administration says they don't work for you, they don't. They work for administration. Problem I have with that whole thing is administration assigns them to CPA, to the application. So it's a catch-22 right there. Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the only thing that we can do, I think, is, aside from not funding in the future, if we decided that, is, because it's written in our guidelines, if we meet that 3-year threshold, we can just rescind.
Yeah, that we have the ability
We
to
have the
do.
ability to do that without blinking an eye.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think right now, that's
The way we
all
go.
that we have, unless we want to do something else.
Marcy, your thoughts?
The other thing I was thinking, because as John was saying, you know, it's a lot of reading and a lot of people don't read everything, especially if it's a number of pages. Is there any way to highlight it, or so it's like brought to their attention?
Capitalize everything?
Yeah, just a big highlight. I don't know.
Somebody
So we're
else.
yelling at them? That's the thought.
So there is the document, which, I don't know, I sent the revisions that I made to you, but I don't know if the rest of
The rest didn't get it.
people should read that, and if they, you know, if people have ideas about explicitly to address this issue about how to change whatever's in there, then we should talk about that. We don't really have to resolve that until when? July?
We should have the application up in July, yeah.
Okay.
So we do have next meeting if everybody has time to read, I mean. I've read
Jen,
the
would
thing
you
enough
put that
times.
on as an agenda item for our next meeting, please?
And,
Go ahead, John.
well, I think it's final, except that I haven't done the online application yet. There are links in the document to the online application, which won't be usable, won't be correct until the online application is up. I'm not gonna get to that for several weeks.
Okay,
But I
fair
don't-
enough. Yep.
I don't anticipate it's gonna take a long time, but I'm not getting to it in the next couple of weeks. But
Okay.
I will shoot for having it ready in June.
Okay,
And if Jan did, what John sent you.
Yep.
If you give that to Jan to distribute to the committee, then everybody could read through the guidelines with some of these specifics in mind.
Right.
okay, got it. Anybody else on the topic?
Okay, just to recap, one of Marcy's ideas there about the, a form, a printed form. So you want to demonstrate that you've gone to the last mile. You don't want to come down on a hammer with, like we've been experiencing, approach everything with a sledgehammer. You know, so I think that's a good idea, that part of the packet or document it has a printed, very simple report form. You know, would take you no more than a minute or 2 minutes to fill it out and slide it under the door, I don't know, whatever, to deliver it. And then the second thing is that on the 3-year rule, we tighten up our own in-house thing and really hold everyone to that. And make that's the ultimate hammer, to make people comply. So we had, not that we're gonna,
Well, to what you said earlier.
Before even,
Yeah,
just so you know, because you're a new member,
Sure.
we don't require them to show up in person.
no, don't have to.
They can send the document to us,
The
just so you know that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
That's good.
well, I was gonna say, following up on what you said earlier, maybe at the 3-year point, we should vote on every project that's hit 3 years and hasn't been completed, and vote to extend. It could be like, we
Well,
could
yeah,
just bundle them.
well, there you go.
And
I mean,
then
we
if
could do
we have
that.
to extend it again, and extend it again, but then we
Yeah.
have something in writing. And if we don't extend, then that gives us more, data for, support for rescinding funds later on.
That's on me.
And I do
That's
think,
on me.
and I do think a template is easy enough to do. I'll be happy to draft up something and send it to you.
We can put it online,
put
we
it
can have
online
an online form.
with the part of the
Just the way the applications work. I mean, right now, online, there's the online application, there's also a separate form and process to submit supplemental information, and this would basically be a variation on that. It's not a big deal. It can be-
Well, the other thing is that when Jan sends out a reminder for the biannual reporting, we send a copy of this template, and it's just like a subtle reminder, and we see what happens. I'm just saying, we're like force feeding them.
Right.
Got it. Well, what's the pleasure of the board? Do we do exactly that? Is everybody in agreement?
I'm in agreement.
I think so, yes.
Go along with that?
I think it's a couple of steps in the right direction, and we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Okay.
Without,
Sure.
Yeah,
John, is that,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. All right. Anybody else want to have any discussion about this particular topic? Okay, moving on. Social media, Facebook. Emily's not here,
right,
so we'll pass that. Website application update.
John just gave it.
I think
Yeah.
I just updated you.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess we have done that. Okay, so we have one agenda point for the next meeting. Is there anything else the board would like on the agenda for next meeting?
Signs,
Signs,
signs.
signs. Okay. We'll talk about it now and get it out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's a big discussion, though. It's because there's lots of parts to it,
This is in reference to the CPC marketing itself, selling itself to the general
I
public.
know it has to be on the agenda,
What?
public meeting.
I forgot. And you reminded me, and I still forgot.
You want it in June or July?
It worked out well last year, I think, in June.
public minute.
Got it over with.
All right, so can we advertise that?
It's the meeting date in June.
What is the meeting date in June?
14.
Okay.
Oh.
Needs to be done.
You gonna be here, or you gonna be gone?
I've been in trouble.
Unavailable.
Yes.
No, wait a minute.
So it's on a
The
Saturday?
14th is a Saturday.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
Saturday.
hold on, I can't, well, that's 24.
My calendar says it's the 12th,
It's the 12th, I was
Okay.
looking in 24, sorry.
Okay,
which should be fine.
okay. Everybody go with that?
12th,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, that's a date.
All right, so,
Public meet,
public hearing
Public hearing.
and the new application and the form, we'll go over it.
Kathy?
Oh, and the Harwich Housing Authority said they'd come at the next meeting. right, Jan?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Right, okay. Well, I'm just saying, put it on the
I didn't
agenda.
reply, I sent it to you and Dave.
Okay, just put it on the agenda.
Yep,
And the other thing is, contact Emily and let her know about the public meeting. I don't know if she wants to put something together
Oh, for social
Okay.
media?
for social
Yeah,
media.
that's a good idea. Great idea, Dave. You just keep having them.
Yeah, right. You're speaking at next town meeting. Anyway, okay, anything else from any of the board members? From the non-board member?
when,
Sec-
when do you wanna do grants?
I think we're gonna wait at least 30 days
Okay,
before we have that discussion, before we have the,
I say July is a good time to have that discussion.
yeah, I'd actually like to invite whomever is the chair of the Board of Selectmen in to have a discussion on that. Or in light of the Board of Selectmen themselves, maybe we go to their,
And I think
So-
before we meet with them to discuss it, we need to have reviewed the grant agreement to make sure that it's updated, because there's some stuff in there that's not exactly updated. Not critical, but it's just not,
Are you talking about
the
the
grant agreement, the one that you have.
sample one?
Yes, the
that's-
sample one. There's some language that could be tightened up, I think. That was the last time I looked at it, I don't know.
right. There were a couple
I don't have an
of
opinion
different
about that.
iterations for that, John. It came from legal.
Yeah,
Carol Capola did it originally, and we were following her template. Then we were following the template of the town of Yarmouth. Then we were back to legal again, so it's bounced around a few times. There's gotta be some finality to it. So,
Do you not like it, or?
no, what I was saying was, I don't have an opinion. I don't,
thanks, John.
Okay,
I'll tell you what,
Go
I'll
ahead.
read it through
okay.
and then tell you, do I like it or not? But I don't know what basis I have for having an opinion about.
My only opinion was that there were some things that were not right, timing-wise, or something like that. It's not, they're not that critical, it's just, it would be nice to have it updated, and then there's the whole thought process of, is it say what we want it to say? I mean, but I don't know how much input we have since it's come from legal. I think we can correct dates and timing, but we can't correct anything else.
Right, well, the other question is whether or not we want the town department heads to be part of those grant agreements. And that's something that the Board of Selectmen can have a discussion with us on. If they choose not to go in that direction, that's fine, but let's have the discussion.
And if I may,
Go ahead.
your desire to have finality doesn't really work with the fact that our leaders are political leaders and they change. You know,
I-
every year the select
That's why I'm
board.
I
doing it 30
agree.
days.
I agree, but
So,
as you recall, may I?
Go ahead, you've got the floor.
As I recall, okay, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, the town administrator was sort of the chief executive signing officer on all of the applications having to do with the town, which was 80% of them or something like that. So, that individual said that they didn't want to sign any grant agreements because, the town doesn't sign an agreement with themselves.
So,
Okay, so then that's the whole question. Is that the way it's gonna be or not? And we're getting a new town administrator at some point, so that's another whole set of discussion. But we do need to clarify the existing grant agreement for at least any outside entities.
that's,
And make sure that that's clear, and also make sure that the timing is clear. In other words, when they're gonna receive funds as of July 1st, that grant agreement has to have been signed, and signed by the Board of Selectmen prior to the funds being released, and that didn't happen this past year.
Nope, it didn't. And it was,
A lot of finality with that one.
I mean, no, I mean, literally, I had to track down the individuals. I had to track down like 5 or 6 applicants and get the process going, because it wasn't timing-wise.
and we're
So I
not
just-
supposed to be doing this.
Well, so that was another whole issue.
Yeah,
Was it us? Was it legal? Was it town? Blah, 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 blah. So
Finance director.
I think we just need some clarity. That's all.
Do we need to get you a gavel?
that's why we kind of, that's, I mean, this all starts July 1st, which gives us just the June.
I know,
meeting.
it doesn't give us a lot of time.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board at this point? What do you want to do?
Well, you did say at one point that we weren't gonna worry about it for this year, we were gonna worry about it for next year, in terms of the grant agreements, in terms of updating them and stuff like that.
Right, but
I
we are
think-
now in next year.
Okay, well, I thought you meant for this summer, you didn't wanna deal with it, this funding cycle, more for in the future. But I do think we need to at least clarify for ourselves, you know, what the procedure is and what, you know, what we're about, you know, in terms of the grant agreements. Like, I'm gonna throw out the question one more time. Did you find out if the Affordable Housing Trust signed the grant or not? Grant agreement? Ooh. Wrong question. I withdraw the question.
They have not sent anything to me.
This is the way it was put to me. We felt when at the inception of the housing trust, we took it on good faith. We put everything into place that the CPC had to put in place. And we were following the Yarmouth unit, the Yarmouth proposal, what Yarmouth does and how they did it. And then I came to find out much later in a discussion with the Housing Trust that Yarmouth doesn't do those things anymore. So where did that leave us? Now, with the chair of the Housing Trust, myself and the person had some interesting conversations. And essentially, I said to him, sign the damn thing, or you're not gonna get any money. And that didn't go over well
And that didn't happen.
with the Board of Selectmen. But what's our obligation to the town? Our obligation isn't to the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee. Our obligation is to the taxpayers of the town of Harwich. And I try to follow that guideline. There's been other discussions I can't repeat. But where do you want to go with this? Do you want to invite the board? Do you want to go to the Board of Selectmen and say, here's what we have? I'll set up a joint meeting.
Well, I think,
Go ahead.
I think we need to be more tuned in to exactly what it is we're asking for before we meet with the Board of Selectmen, you know, in terms of the grant agreement. You know, do we know who we're asking to sign the grant agreements and why? I mean, it's a fact that, or at least we thought it was a fact, that almost every town that has a Community Preservation Act, or receives Community Preservation Act funds, and have a housing trust that gets funded, they're required to sign a grant agreement. And when we eliminated the rescission provision of the 3 years, blah, 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 the Affordable Housing Trust was in complete agreement with signing the thing. And then it went to the Board of Selectmen and it didn't get signed. So I guess the question is, you know, where are we with all of this? I mean, how important are the grant agreements to us? Are they important at all? Are they a legal consideration someplace? And is that the route we should go, that they're a legal consideration? If they're not really a legal consideration and we don't really care, then why are we continuing to have the conversation? I mean, I guess the question is, why are they important?
I can't answer that question.
So,
John?
from my point of view, and I haven't been directly in the line of fire about any of this, it's partly a power struggle on both sides.
Oh, for sure.
And so, we should be avoiding that. I mean, it shouldn't be a power struggle. It shouldn't be about, you're gonna do this because I say you're gonna do it, or I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna do it. It shouldn't be about that at all. So, I think you're right. We have to clearly articulate a reason why we need this, which I would not be able to do myself at this point, but
That's what I mean. Before we meet with the Board of Selectmen, I think we need to know, is there a legal reason to have grant agreements? And with whom do they have to be? And does that exclude A, B, C, D?
Years past, when I got into this in depth and did the research, Boston recommended to every town that a housing trust have a grant agreement.
and
I've been away from it for a while, I haven't reviewed it in a while. I don't get paid to review that information. So I don't know what it is today. I don't know what's changed. I'd actually have to dive in again and go through the entire legislation to see if anything has changed.
well, hopefully somebody at that level has articulated a
They have.
specific and clear reason why it's necessary.
It's on the website, on the coalition's website, it is. I mean, we have to figure out if that applies to us.
Is that our homework assignment then, reading
Well,
that stuff?
I think it would behoove us to do that. You know, so we can have an intelligent
Well,
discussion about
it'd
it.
be advantageous for all of us to read it so we can have a discussion,
Right.
an informed discussion.
Do you know where it is? I mean, it would be great if somebody sent out a link to the page on the coalition's website to all of us, so that none of us have that excuse anyway.
I could
not
find it,
to
John,
do
but
the
I don't know
reading.
how to link it.
And John, honesty, at this point, I don't have the time to go back and look at all that information again.
But
I can find it, but I don't know how to,
explain it in
Item of
your
another.
own words.
Right.
Tell me where to find it.
okay,
I
all
mean,
right,
You know
all you
something?
have to do is find it on the website.
all right, I will find it.
Let me ask a question before we go any further.
But,
To our secretary,
Cape, what?
do you
There's a
have the
section on
time
it.
to research this information and to send it out to all the board members?
Maybe you should
Okay,
just,
so I'm gonna give everybody a copy of the GA. I'm gonna look on the Alliance, or the Alliance's website.
I'll find it on the coalition
I mean,
website.
they have a whole thing on
Yeah.
GAs. I don't know if they go into great, requirement
Well,
on it.
no, they have a specific thing for the
It's
affordable
there.
housing.
It's
trust
there.
It's a whole
of
segment.
let's just
why
find it
it
right
should-
now.
Why we should have it.
What,
Because I did read it, it's all there, I know it's there. It's just what's been updated, what hasn't.
What else?
Coalition.
Right.
Coalition, not alliance.
Yeah, there's
So
the
it's-
coalition's right there.
Latest upcoming.
Community
Data bank.
Preservation Alliance. Let's see if you get it from
No,
there.
it's a coalition.
I know, but if I say Alliance, it gets,
Yeah, no, it's coalition.
but the Alliance is on here. Is that the same? Community Preservation.
Oh, here we go. There's a
Coalition.
thing right here.
Yep.
When CPA funds a housing trust, a grant agreement is a must. So I'm gonna send this link to Jan, and she can
Distribute it,
Okay.
distribute it.
Okay.
okay?
Thank you,
Teach me how
John.
to do that someday.
do, is what I do. Select that stuff.
I want to go home.
Well, you have a Mac, I mean. Come on, come on.
Jeez.
I don't know how to do a link.
But I think we have four that need a GA. 4 projects that were
Yeah.
approved.
Right.
Just underline the word must.
Yeah, we have
CDP.
Lower Cape, HCT, Forward at the Rock. And is there another one? AHT, the Housing Trust.
Well, I think you said the CDP, the
Yep.
Lower Cape Housing Institute, Affordable Housing Trust.
Yep.
Forward at the Rock,
HCT.
and the HCT, the Cape Cod Rail Trail Land Preservation Project.
So when does the money get released? The first?
July 1st. yeah.
July 1st? This has to be discussed, and there has to be some conclusion to it before the 1st. So we
Yeah.
have to have that discussion in June, one way or the other.
Okay,
In
sorry.
fact, I'm almost thinking we have to have a special meeting. And I know you're horrified by that, but we need to have that discussion, and then whatever the conclusion we draw, we need to go to the Board of Selectmen or invite them, one or the other, to one of their meetings to have a discussion with them before the monies are released. Am I out of my mind? Just tell
No.
me.
We need to be put on their agenda and bring it up.
So let's have that meeting first, not this month, but next month. And we're due, when do we have our meeting next month, the 14th? 12th.
12th.
So that would give us a couple of weeks within that month to get together with them on a Monday night.
All right.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
I just sent you the link, Jane.
Thank you.
How is it so easy for you? I have to battle these bloody computers all the time,
Been doing it
for a long period of time. I got it. Okay, is there anything anybody else wants on the agenda? We're still talking about the agenda.
Right.
I think we got a full agenda.
I think we have to.
I think we got 2 agendas here.
A lot
Okay.
of homework.
Right.
I'll entertain a motion.
To adjourn?
That's right.
Here, so moved.
I'll second that.
And second.
Art can take it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.